you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. We are back this week. We are talking about domestic violence. Again, yes, it's very important. After abuse, building a better self and relationships. Welcome back, like I said before. And I am today with me is comedian author Debra Palardy. And we're talking about domestic violence because globally, 81,000 women and girls are killed just in 2020 alone. Just imagine. I mean, don't forget the pandemic. I'm sure it's gotten way worse. So this week, and that's according to a statistic from domesticshelters.org, by the way. So 1 out of 5, or 16%, 16.3% of murders victims in the U.S. were killed by an intimate partner. So there's 19.3 million women. That's a lot. And you want to compare it to 5.1 million men in the U.S. Now, in the stats, I wasn't able to see if that included, let's say, I killed the man because he was, abusing me. That's very important to know. So I don't know that part. Why 5.1 million men? I'm going to guess that they're including that in it, but I couldn't find it. So just to let you know, you might want to research that. Globally, 81,000 women and girls were killed just in 2020. That's just, I mean, every time I think about that stat, 47,000 of them, 58% died at the hands of an intimate partner or family member. Okay. So basically, guys, that's every 11 minutes, a girl is killed in their home. And that's according to unwoman.org. It's the stats are just mind boggling. So welcome, Debra Palardy. How are you?
Thank you. I'm great. How are you?
I am doing great. I thank you so much for taking the time to come and be with us again. So tell us the title of your book again.
The title of my book is Sweetie, How Much Should You Give Up to Keep That Relationship? I can answer that.
Yes. All right. So that's why we're having you here today. Not only do you do comedy, but you wrote this book in hopes of helping people and from your personal experiences. So if you can give our viewers, just I'm just gonna ask you just a few questions, and then you can share an insight with your book. You can get it on Amazon, correct?
You hear that scratching sound?
Yes, I do. It's a phone. It's a phone. It's a phone vibrating.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
So you guys know. Yeah. So what was it like? Well, first of all, let me see. What would I say first? I would say what was it like when you first got free, but let's go back to that. Um, w- what attracted you to this guy particularly? Was it like any other relationship or any other attraction, or just coincidence, or what do you think that piece is?
Well, I mean, at that time, I remember being really lonely and kind of sad. And most of the people that I thought I was interested in, they didn't even want to have a second date or whatever.
Mhm.
And when I met him, he was immediately attracted to me, and he was kind of a take charge kind of man. And it just felt like I was being swept up on this, on this horse to my future, you
Mhm.
know that white knight in shining armor.
Right.
And it just felt like that because he was a take charge kind of person. And I don't know, at first
Mhm.
I felt safe,
Right.
and I hadn't before, even when I was single.
Right. Well, isn't that how most people get us? I mean, all guys in general. The first thing they do is, if they like us, is make us feel safe, right? And
Yeah.
make us feel loved, and we're special. There's nobody as
Oh
great as
yeah.
us, right? Um, uh, and when in the relationship did you realize, whoa, something's going off here? Right, the alarm goes off. Is
Oh,
it
it didn't take long.
month two? First date I had a clue, but I ignored it because, like all human beings, we all want to be loved, right? And accepted. And
Right.
we all get lonely. So it's very easy for any of us to be like, wow, this guy's just really shining and dining me and treating me like a queen. Oh my God. Especially if we didn't have that. I will say that's
Right.
an extra uh, special thing. If you haven't had that, or you're missing that, like after the pandemic, for instance, I'm sure how many women are going to be like, whatever comes along, that's just male,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's easy to not see what's right in front of you.
Right.
um for instance, I don't know if this happens to everybody, but I had a picture taken for an ID. years and years ago. When I saw that picture, I was mortified and I couldn't get another picture and nobody would take another one. And that was the one I was stuck with.
Oh,
That
well,
was 30 years ago. And when I look at that picture now, I'm like, wow, I didn't look bad.
wow.
So it
Wow.
was right in front of me, but my eyes couldn't see
Right.
what was right in front of me. And so we all have that ability.
Yeah.
And so for a while,
Mhm.
it was right in front of me and I didn't want to see it. And it
Right.
was very quickly. It didn't take long,
Right.
like a month.
Okay. Yeah. Well, again, and this is the only reason why we're mentioning this, guys, because if someone's out there who's in a relationship, not sure, well, I don't know if I'm really in a domestic violence relationship. I'm not really sure. Or you're on these dates with this guy, you've been on a third one, and you're hearing anything that we're talking about, to run now before it goes deep.
Yeah.
So that's why we're talking about it. And yes, we have talked about it before, but in my eyes, I've always said this, Deborah, there is a war on women and children.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Oh, worldwide, by the way.
Yes.
I don't know what I mean. I know what it's about. I honestly think it's about male dominance, and then it can also be about, um, there's a couple of things to that, but
Mhm.
it, it goes back to the friggin' caveman times. I hate to
Oh
say,
yeah.
goes way
It's
back.
good and evil. It's just good and evil. You have to pick a team. I've always said that. You have to pick a team, or
Yeah.
one will be chosen for you.
Oh, that's a good way. That's a good saying I used to say as a kid. You got to decide.
Yes.
Somebody's going to decide. The universe. If you don't make a plan, the universe will make one for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your night might not be the one you want.
Nope. You might get the leftovers. Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Wow.
That's
So
right.
so what I mean, we went through this before, but I still want to go through it again. What are some of the signs that you knew right away, and then the signs that took a while till you said, "Oh my God," and you hit the wall and you woke up one day and said, "Oh no."
Right. Well, some of the first signs were, I would say, hey, I had plans with my friend to go have coffee or whatever it was, the
Mhm,
normal kind of thing that you would do.
mhm,
And he would be like saying the worst things about this friend.
mm,
He didn't like her.
mhm,
No, don't do that. She talks about you behind your back. You wouldn't believe the stuff she says. Don't go there. So it got to the point where I was like, wow, what is why does she want to hang out with me if she doesn't like me?
right. Right.
You know? Eh,
That is a classic sign of an abuser.
mm,
The telling them that everybody else doesn't like you.
right.
I had a girl once. I actually helped her and let her stay in my place. She was pregnant, and the gentleman was beating her bad. So I
Oh,
was like, stay with me. I didn't charge her anything, nothing, and I didn't even know her that well, so she could have killed me for all I know. But I was like, just because I'm a human being, and I
right.
just can't sit by and watch. I can't. Not on my watch. And so I let her stay with me right before she delivered the baby, and everything I thought was fine. I'm helping her. I mean, she had a toddler and her pregnant.
Oh,
I'm doing her
wow.
a favor, right? And I give up my daughter's. I'm like the whole thing. I just helped her out, and then she has the baby and getting ready to come home, and she tells me, "Oh, I'm not coming home." My ex, I won't say his name, said that
Right.
you liked him, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Wait, did you say I liked him?" I said,
Yeah.
"No. If anybody knows me, that's never gonna happen. I learned from your example, girl. Trust me. I learned from your example, and plus, he's not my type at all. He's
Yeah.
hashtag bum. Like, no,
Right.
not my type. So it was just they flipped it on me and
Oh,
tried
yeah.
to you want him. I was like, first of all, he's too skinny. That's what he ain't got enough meat on his bones for me. Number two, he's not my type. I don't deal with narcissism at all. At all.
Exactly.
I don't deal with narcissism at all. I'm very I'm very alpha woman. I'm an alpha woman.
That's obvious.
Yeah,
It's one of
so
your best qualities.
it actually is. And I think it's the only thing that ever stopped me from getting into I had come once yell at me funny. He didn't yell, but he talked really loud. And after what I did to him, he left me.
Oh,
He was like, "You're crazy." I was like, "I'm not crazy. You just can't talk to me any kind of way." So I'm
right.
thankful for my personality, because
I am
it
too.
fears off. Uh, even if I'm weak inside, even if whatever you want to call me, you could say I don't have self-esteem sometimes. That's true. I don't. But you'll
Yeah.
never know it if you're a guy. You'll never know. I will never no. And that's because of past issues. So I take full responsibility for that. It's a good thing that my past abuse issues as a kid stimulate or filtered into to adulthood, where I don't allow myself to be in any situation like that ever again. It just can't happen.
Right. Well, I mean, the conversations you have with yourself inside do not most likely ever match your actions on the outside. So, but I just wanted to point out one thing that I just thought of.
Mhm.
It was that first lunch meeting that I
Mhm.
canceled.
Oh,
And it was like,
oh boy.
cutting the strings on the drawbridge, the one string. There was one left.
Woo.
You know what I mean? So when you agree to cancel or let go of a person,
Mhm.
it's the first cut of the all the cuts.
Mm. Wow. Oh,
They should have
wow.
just insisted on going.
Wow. So when you canceled the date, the reaction was not good.
No, I meant with her, my friend, who I wanted to go out for coffee with.
Oh.
And he said,
Oh.
she doesn't like you. That very first thing that I agreed to
Mhm.
do for him, that is when he got his little gas. You know what I mean? He got his charge. He
Mhm.
started getting more empowered. So I
Mhm.
was giving him that power, and I did not realize that I was feeding a monster. And
Yes.
everything that I agreed to, the monster was getting bigger and bigger, and I was getting smaller and smaller.
Wow, that is a good way to look at that. And I know you refer to that in your book. That is a brilliant way to see it, because that's kind of what feeds them their okay, is that I give up.
Yeah.
And the more I give up, the more they say, "Oh, well, let's see what else can I get away with.
Yes.
That works, then what else can work?" It is a series of events, I think. But how did you know, what was it like when mentally for you when you first got free? Did you realize that, wait a minute, there's things I gotta retrain my brain here. What's going on here?
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. I mean, when I first, like, somebody came, one of my family members came, was like, "This is ridiculous," whatever it was. They came and got me. I got all my things, and I
Mm,
went, and it was my parents' house.
mm,
And that very first like few hours, it was just like the birds, the sky, the air. It's like, oh my God, it was springtime. It's like the flowers are so beautiful out here.
you
It's like,
noticed things.
yeah,
Well,
it was
that's
like everything. I didn't realize that I had such a narrow focus of like, when is he gonna go off again?
right.
So, and then when I was finally like out, it was like, there's grass, and oh my God, we could go shopping. Coffee is so delicious. It's
Right.
like, you know what I mean? You don't even realize you're losing your joy to the simple things.
Mm, mm,
So it was really like being rescued from you know being a hostage,
right.
because I
Wow.
was.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty much how we could equate it. Yeah. That's it. How did you how many times is another thing? Keep talking. I just
No,
determined this.
well,
This
I did not realize.
keep talking.
Um,
I'm right here.
okay,
I can hear you.
you want me to keep talking?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I did not realize the power and the energy that this person was going to use to try to get me to come back.
Mm,
So when he showed up at my mother's house, the things that was coming out of his mouth, the
mhm,
energy, he wasn't going to take no for an answer, and all the apologies, and he realized that he did this wrong and that wrong. He's like, oh, okay, so I think we've message received. All right, let's try this, because there is so much, there was so much good that I thought there was.
mm.
So I went back again, and oh my God, it was 2 days later.
Wow.
two
Wow.
days later, it
Dude.
was just like I had never left. Like,
So that
you
must
know,
have been really traumatizing, though, to it, like to go from like the grass, wow, how beautiful
yeah,
sunshine, and then go back. Now fear grips,
yeah,
and then to get back, you're like, oh my God, what did I do? Why did I do
yeah,
this? And then that's the sad part. You're gonna have the guilt, which you shouldn't have, because it's
yes,
totally his fault, 100%.
yes,
It's never the victim's fault, but they make you feel like it's your fault.
right.
You did this and you did that, and it's not. It's not. That's a part of the brain that has to be reconditioned as well.
Yeah, and the guilt makes you feel like everything he's saying is right, and you really should just listen to him. You know, it is not like, it doesn't
Yes.
come off as like I did this, like, you know, it came off as like, well, I guess he's right. You know, it took a
Right.
long time, and this is almost like I want to say it now because it's important to say it now.
Hmm.
I did not see why he was so hell bent on being with me. If like he was taking everything away from me that I loved,
Hmm.
everything.
Mm.
And so that's the opposite of love. He was indifferent to everything that I loved, and
Hmm.
he took it away over and over and over again. So why? I mean, like, I've been in a good relationship. I would never take anything away from my husband that he loves.
Hmm.
Nothing.
Right.
Not even a postage stamp, whatever it is.
Mhm.
But he was taking everything.
Mm.
And so it got to the point where I try to figure out, what does he want if he doesn't care about me? And
Right.
that's when I started realizing that he was feeding on me. He has an obsession to control a person. Like that first lunch date with my friend that I canceled, he got
Hmm.
a charge out of it. I did not know. He got,
Hmm.
like, he was built up. So he is obsessed with that feeling that he gets to control somebody.
Mm.
And I did not realize that's why he was in this relationship, not because of anything, that any normal thing that I thought about. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Right.
so I took me a long time to realize that I was somebody's food,
Mm. Wow. Mm. Mm-mm.
you
Oh, wow.
know.
And you got to put them on an intermittent fast then to starvation.
Yeah. And another point I wanted to make is too, is like, when you're eating food, like supposing you're like eating your whatever it is, and you drop a piece that you really wanted to get into your mouth, and you
Mhm.
drop it, and now you can't have it. The 5-second rule doesn't apply to this piece that you
Ah,
dropped, and you can't have it. You're so mad at that piece of food, you want to like stomp on it or throw it in the trash. So when you're the food and you try
right.
to leave, that's when you're in the most danger, because
Mm.
now you're that food that fell, and the 5-second rule doesn't apply, and they want to just destroy you.
Right. Well, that's another thing. Women don't leave often because, especially if there's children involved,
Yes, so
the threats
scary.
that are made, I'll kill your family, I'll do this to
Yes.
you. That's big. I'll go to your job and embarrass you.
Yep.
And you're lucky if you get to have a job because a lot of them be like, mm-mm, we
Oh
don't want
yeah.
you anymore. Stay home, barefoot and pregnant pretty much. And that's to control you 100%
Yes.
because they have to have, if you're around, which is why they don't want you to have friends or family around. If you're around family or friends who are good, they're gonna wake you up and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, Deborah, I didn't see you today. What's up? Why is your eye like this?" Or you haven't eaten in 3 days. What's wrong with you, girl? Is you okay? Are you depressed today? What's going on?
Right.
That's why they don't want you. They do. I call it isolation because
Yeah.
then they can really control you. It's sort of like prisoners. They put them in the hole, right? You're gonna learn a lesson in this hole, right? That's what you're gonna
Mhm.
learn. And so it's sort of like soldiers, all that they know about this stuff. That's the best way to get somebody is isolate them because
Yes.
human beings do not want to be by themselves. And when they are, it's very easy to recondition their brain and do
Oh
whatever
yeah.
whatever you need
That is
done.
so true. That
Yeah.
is so true. And just staying on with the food thing for one more second. When
Mhm.
sometimes you see people eating and they're just so guarding over their like little plate, like no one's gonna steal your plate. You know what I mean? I'm
Mhm.
not gonna take a French fry off you, but you can see them guarding it. They guarding. They don't want anyone getting near the plate, and
Mhm.
it's like that.
Mm. Wow. Well, that's a serious way to look at it, and one a view I never really thought about, but that's a good way to look at it. Oh my gosh, you talk about this in your book, correct?
I talk about, oh yes, oh
Mhm.
yes. I go into that in detail, even though my book is short, and I
Right.
wanted my book to be short because
Yes.
I remember when I actually ended up at a shelter,
Mhm.
because he kept going to my parents' house and convincing me that he was going to kill everybody in my family if I didn't leave.
Uh,
And so I went to a shelter so he couldn't find me. And
mhm.
they were giving me stuff to read.
Mhm.
Excuse me. And I remember looking at the stuff they gave me to read. I was like, what is this? How
Right.
is, it
Overwhelming.
was so dry. Not just that, but it was like all about him.
Mhm.
It had nothing to do with me.
Mhm.
I mean, it was just textbook.
Mhm.
It was textbook. It was clinical.
Mhm. Probably written
Sometimes
by
it,
a man who used
right,
to be an abuser, maybe.
right. Like I'm reading a medical book or something, and then it was also, sometimes there would be testimonial stories in there about two people. It's like, who cares?
Right.
My book is not about me. When the
Right.
person picks up my book, it's a letter to Tanya. if you might attest to. You read, you have, you know what
Did
I
it.
mean?
Very good book. Yes. Very, very
It's intimate and
read.
personal.
Yes.
And you
Yes.
feel like you're with somebody. Like you don't, like you could be sitting alone in a room, and
Right.
when you're reading my book, you feel like you're surrounded by people who love you. You
Right.
feel like you're surrounded by comfort. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because it's coming at you. You know,
Mm,
so my book is nothing like the clinical textbooks that you would get. This is like a hug with information.
I like that. A hug with information, and that is
Yeah,
exactly how I felt when I read it. That's exactly it. It's a great book. You guys should get it. And wait, let me create a banner for the title. Give me the title again, honey.
it is, sweetie. How much
Sweet
should you give up to keep that relationship? I can answer that.
should
It's long, I know.
up to keep that relationship. I'm typing in a thing for relationship. Relationship. I can answer that. Although I did not do my caps, guys.
It's okay. You know, it's because you do have to give up stuff to keep a
Debra
relationship.
Palardy.
Mm.
And it's on Amazon, correct?
It is. It is. There's a lot of other places that is, but you know, this is the place that people go. So
Right. Yeah, that's the spot. The
it is
spot.
the spot.
This place to be is Amazon. That what? My spelling. So forgive me, guys. I'm just trying to get this together here. Forgive me. Let's see if I can get it. Sweetie, how much should you give up to keep that relationship? I can answer that by Debra J.
Yes.
Palardy on Amazon. You guys check out that book. So I was gonna go to a music video here, just a small clip of a song, and this is funny. The song title is by Tatiana. So we'll come right back in a minute, guys. But in the meantime, I'll have you come back and answer some more questions
Yes.
when we come back. Okay. So
Okay.
give me a minute, guys. Here we go. Let's see.
I'm already broken. I think you'll stay in close cause you love the pain. I never try to change you in any way. And when we get too close, you just push away. Don't you know I'll never hurt you? Try to change or break your heart. I'll never leave you alone in the dark. Why do you walk away holding my heart? I'm there for you. Why can't you do the same for me? Why can't you treat me like the way I do? Why won't you do the same for me?
Go. We're back on the town with Tanya. That was Tatiana Staley singing "I'm There for You," original song. And I need to get that off of the screen, right? That would help.
Okay.
So we're back with author comedian Debra J. Palardy, talking about after abuse, building a better self and relationships. So so one question I want to ask: did you need help? And were you able to get it like while you were in it? Were the people that could have helped you, or you just kept denying help?
There were people that could have helped me, but I was too afraid. I was
Mhm.
told over and over again that and my brother and sister, who are grown people now, I was told that they were going to be killed
Right.
if I did anything. So what I did was I got out of the relationship. I had like 5 years where I was pretty much alone all the time,
Mhm.
and I didn't tell my parents, and I didn't tell anybody. And he never found me at my apartment. He found me all over the place, got me fired from jobs. But when I was on my way home every night, I made sure that there wasn't anybody following me. So I lived there almost, almost the whole 5 years without him finding me until that weekend where he did find me.
Wow, really? And after 5 years, he was still looking?
Oh yeah, it went on for years. It
Well,
was
how are you now able to go and talk without him finding you? Because Facebook.
well, I mean, I'm a little embarrassed to say, but that was almost 40 years ago.
Okay, well, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I still would be. I always think of Julia Roberts. You're always looking over your shoulder.
A little bit. I don't do it as much anymore, but I think when I'm looking over my shoulder now is the reason why all of us should be looking over our shoulders, because there's other predators out there besides that one. So I do that, as everyone should
Mm.
do that, just to make sure that the person, if there's a person out there is trying to, whatever they do, they realize you're a person who's looking around. So they usually shy away from those people.
Okay. Wow.
I do that still, yes.
Still, yeah. No, I can imagine that would be a part of just a reflex. And how could family or friends help if they don't know? Like,
They can't if they don't know.
right. So there's nothing really they can do but just wait. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Did you I guess in your head, did you want people to rescue someone? Hello,
Yes.
you know what's going on?
Yes, and I didn't know what a rescue would look like at that point, because I wasn't going out with him. I went out with him for a year plus, and then this was like 5 years of not going out with him. I had no dates at all.
Mhm.
I mean, I was single that entire time.
That's
And
smart because you got to recondition your brain, or you'll
Well,
attract the
that's
same-
true, and I didn't realize it was smart in that way. What happened was I had we all have our little circle of friends,
Mhm.
and none of my friends wanted to go out with me because they knew I had a stalker, so they were all too scared.
Oh, so now, and that's where we'll talk about that too is so that's the thing. Now you're out of this relationship, and then all the bridges that you cut off. Now, how did you rebuild those? So, like, let's say if you never went to see a sister or a brother, or you never went to see your friends, or you cancel the parties, or all those things that happen when you're with an abuser. You make excuses,
Right.
and they're good excuses. So I'm not saying is it, but how do you rebuild those bridges now?
Well, back then it was the phone calls, obviously, because we had the landlines and stuff, and I
Mhm.
was rebuilding bridges. I mean, I just wasn't hanging out like at an alarming rate. I was making sure nobody followed me, go to my friend's house, or make sure no one's following me, go to my parents' house.
Yeah.
So he wasn't driving by my parents' house all the time. So like Christmas, I would be over there, birthday parties, I'd be over there and stuff. And sometimes in the summer she had a pool, I would go over and park my car where he couldn't see it. And so I was able to do stuff in that 5 years time, but it wasn't just out in your face, and I certainly wasn't dating.
Right.
I was still mostly just looking over my shoulder all the time because someone was following me.
Well, that in itself is a hard thing. Like, how did you work yourself to get rid of that? Because at some point you're building up another mechanism that will filter into your everyday life. So if I just meet you, let's say, hey, how are you, Deborah? Let's hang out. Let's go to my beach house and wherever, I don't know.
Yeah.
And we're there, and you're always looking over and checking
Yeah.
things. Wouldn't that affect also your regular friendships? And
Yeah, there was that. The whole 5 years,
Mhm.
that happened all the time. And then the first year where I had gotten rescued, it
Mhm.
still happened for a good year plus. It took a long time for me to stop doing that, but I didn't realize the date where I had gotten rescued. I didn't realize it right away.
Okay.
It was when he had found where I lived, and it was like 2 days after the people in the third floor and the first floor moved. It was just such a weird like situation, perfect storm, you know what I mean? So now I'm on the second floor for the first time in like all those years by myself, but I didn't care because I was pretty careful all the time.
Right.
And it was the following Monday where I had a knock on my door, and that's when the hitting started and the screaming started. I'm rolling around out in my hallway, and I'm figuring this is it because everyone moved.
Right.
And so all of a sudden he gets up and runs away from me, which he's never done before. And I was still laying on the floor. So I just saw feet and a bat. And then all of a sudden, as the person was going down the stairs, I saw the back of his head, and I ran back into my apartment. Somebody had moved me upstairs, and I did not know that. And heard the commotion, came running out with a bat and chased him away.
Now, is that your current husband? Or
that is the person I married, yes.
Oh my God. I mean, speaking of knight in shining armor, like
I know.
That is a Cinderella moment right there.
I know.
That is the real. So, I mean, I can imagine how ecstatic you were that who is this guy? Like a superhero, sort of.
Well, I didn't see his face that day. When he came back up the stairs, I heard him. I said, "Thank you" through the door. and I apologized and stuff. But in my head, I was like, I have to move now because he knows where I live. That's it.
Right.
And I didn't know what happened. He never came back. So
Wow.
one person
Mm.
confronted him. Now he did not know I didn't know this person.
Mm.
Uh,
Oh.
you know what I mean? He thought that,
He just
that
knew
I
they
knew
couldn't
this
stand
person.
up for you. That's what he knew. He knew. Wait a minute, this person's really ready to stand up for her. Right? I don't know
Yeah.
if I don't know if I want to go that far in.
Yeah. He had
Wow.
no idea. I didn't know who that was either.
So imagine if half of our cases where if people were said like I never could understood, and there's no judgment. It's just I never could understood. Like if I was in the middle of a domestic violence, if I was in the middle of a domestic violence situation, my brother, well, none of my brothers, but my brother would not. That would not happen more than for 1 minute because
Mine either.
that's the type of brother that he was. And I could lie and hide all I want, but he's the type that will sneak up on me and see what's really going on. And I've seen him do it he helped a friend of mine, a friend who we felt like a sister that was she was in the mental stage of the domestic violence. It was just the mental first. And he made the guy get out of the house in 5 seconds. But I don't understand how anybody could, because even if I was just a sister, if it was my sister, if I knew, oh no, he's got to go. I don't know how. I don't know
I
how.
didn't tell.
I
I didn't
know.
tell my brother.
I
had another brother that was my age. So
Yeah.
he was saying he was going to kill my 2 younger sisters that were, because there was like a 15-year age gap. So they were like about maybe like 6 or 7 by this time.
Right.
And I was like in my 20s.
Right.
And so
I
had a brother that was my age. So he was in his 20s. He could have done something. I did not tell him. I did not want my brother to be in that position.
Right, because you also don't know if they're going to really kill him. I mean,
right.
And it has happened where
yes, it has so many times.
Yeah, I've seen personally cases where that happened, and I lost a few friends. One particular one a few years back to domestic violence. And no one had no clue what was going on, no clue whatsoever. We just saw on the news. Oh my God, it was one of the worst cases in history. You know, and I had no idea. She had a master's degree. She had a beautiful son. The whole nine. I had no idea. But I'm saying when someone knows for sure, a family member knows for sure, like a brother, a close family member, not just anybody.
Oh yeah, I couldn't have stopped him.
I'm not going to ask you to take a risk on your life for me. You know, if I'm like your, BFF and you got kids, I understand that. But if I'm your brother or your sister and I find out, oh yeah, he won't be around long.
Right, I couldn't have stopped my brother if he knew. That is why I made sure that nobody, you know what I mean? When people saw me for the birthdays or the little times that I was there, in those times I'm like, everything's great. So hope you don't have a boyfriend. I don't like anybody.
Right. Okay. So yeah, and that's usually classic to hide and defend the other person. Not intentional sometimes, it's easier and safer.
Yeah. I don't, it was my own fault. I wouldn't want anybody getting hurt because of something that I did.
Well, you didn't do anything. That's the catch.
and I didn't know that at the time.
Right.
You know, but then when that person came from the upstairs and went ahead and did that, I didn't have any choice in the matter because I didn't know it was, and I didn't know what was going to happen. And then that's when I realized, it took me a while to realize that he was not coming back. That he never bothered me out in the town. He never bothered me at my friend's house. He never bothered me anywhere. And that is the point where I realized 2 things. One, I don't have a stalker anymore. And 2, my stalker this whole entire time has been a coward.
Now, why do you call him a stalker instead of abuser? I'm just curious. Is there
that's what he was doing at the time because we hadn't gone out in all those years. So, I mean, he was just leaving notes on the car and constantly trying to get me to come back. And, he had to do it in piecework.
Right.
Not before where he was finding me at my parents' house. It was just, he was out there every day. My parents were getting worn out. And so that is why I couldn't stay with them. But I didn't have anybody. I didn't have any real place to stay. So I literally had to get my own place. And I do not recommend that. Now in these days, people can find you. Do not live by yourself.
Yes.
You need to be surrounded by people who can protect you. A lot of these people who have protective orders, and then when they get murdered there in their homes by
Right.
themselves, thinking
Yes.
that they're protected. You
Yes.
cannot. And I don't care how long it takes. You have to be in an environment where you're surrounded by people who can protect you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Even if you have to live in a hotel type situation,
Yes, that's what I was
you
gonna
know?
say. You can go to there's domestic violence shelters. And personally, if I was me and it was that severe, um I am one of the people that'd be like, I would go to DSS, ask them for a one-way ticket, bus ticket to
Yes.
another state. That's just
Yes.
me. Especially if there's kids involved, because you don't
Oh yeah.
want, I mean, well, I look up the states because you want to make sure you still have that they protect domestic violence women. You want to make sure you're protected. Like New York, you're protected. So if I say I can't give you, the kids can't have a visitation because this man's trying to kill
Right.
you, they're gonna say, oh no, absolutely not. DV, no problem. Financial aid, all those papers you got to fill out and ask about the dad and this and that. It's very important what state you're in that they support women that are
Right.
being. And I mean, it could be men too, but I'm focusing on the women because usually it's women, and usually the woman's the one that can't get it. There's a lot of stuff to that. There are men, so don't let me. I don't want you to think there's no men in domestic violence. There are
Oh
some.
yeah, there are plenty
There
of
are
men.
5 point something million, something like that, 5.3 million compared to our 19 something million. So I'm just focusing on us right now. And that's because usually we're the ones with the kids, and in a desperate situation, no resources, and they usually have control over the money, which is
Oh
a big
yes,
reason
the
why a lot of women
financial
don't do.
abuse.
Yes, yeah. So I always tell all women this, and that's even if you're not in a domestic violence relationship, never give up who you are under no circumstances, because I mean, as a single mother, you give up your career. You say, oh, I'm not going to do this because I don't want my kids to be here, or you give up so much of yourself in a
Right.
relationship. It doesn't make sense to me. Stay who you are, be what you love to do, or focus on what you wanted to do, and do it while you're being a great wife and while you're being a great girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever it is, and have your kids. You can still do that too, but when you give it up yourself, I think you're more vulnerable to
Yeah.
people that will take advantage of you. I'll just say that, because then they're like, oh, they don't have anything else going. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And if I still have, that's why it's important when they. And I know that's the whole classic abuse thing, is to say, why are you at that stupid job? They don't, they don't like you there anyway. You're not really
Yeah.
making money. I can take care of you. Why? Well, first they do it charmingly. Oh, I'll take care of it. And as a human being, you're like, what? Dun-dun-dun, the heavens open. Oh,
I know.
they can take care of me.
I
Look,
know. I
over my
know.
head. Ah,
I know.
that's usually what happens, right? Because everybody wants the classic Cinderella syndrome. But the truth or reality, people, is there is no knight in shining armor. Well, she had one, but
Well,
technically there isn't one.
underneath the armor, my husband is just a regular person.
Right.
We have to work in our relationship. He can be very annoying sometimes, just like I can.
Of
So
course.
I say knight in shining armor because he saved me, but he's just a regular person. But he's not. He doesn't feed off me.
I think that is I think that just that scene that you tell me about where he came down with the bat is a scene I'd love to see in a movie. Like it just sounds so like right out of a movie. This, like, all of a sudden this guy's coming here scared and fearful, and then out of nowhere comes the guy. Yeah. It's like, I would love to hear more stories like that.
I know.
And I would love to talk to him one day and see what went through his head, that like he didn't care. Like, this is not going to happen on my watch. I don't care.
Well, he would just heard screaming. He didn't know anything about me. But
Right.
to this day, I mean, that was a long time ago. And to this day in my mind is so fresh. I still see him getting up and running. I can see him running, and I'm confused. And that's when I see the bat. That's the first thing I saw, was the bat swinging, and then his feet, and then all of a sudden, as he's going downstairs, his back, and then his head, and he disappears out the door. And I didn't even look out the door to see
him, didn't he? Did he
what
go
was
with
that.
the guy, your husband, go looking for him?
Yes, he was trying to get him to whack him with the bat.
But I love this guy. He's a superhero. He's really. You got to make a book about that.
I know. But he got in his car and drove off before he could catch him.
Oh,
Man,
that is amazing. I mean, that is I can't tell you. It makes my heart happy and fuzzy when I hear stories like that. Because it's like, I'd like to know, you got to write that book and say, what were you thinking the moment you saw a woman in distress, or human being? How about that? It could have been man or woman. I'm sure this guy sounds like, no matter who it was, not going to happen on his watch.
Yes, I
Uh,
think that is what he was thinking. I don't even know why I didn't ask him what he was thinking that
what?
first moment.
Oh
What I
my
mean,
gosh, girl.
what he's here, he could come say hi. I don't know if he would,
Yes,
but
you got one day. I don't know if he'll want to, but I would love to know why he. I mean, I just gotta know
he
what.
just heard screaming and he decided he was going to go fix it. I
Yeah,
guess.
but there's something about his character,
Yes.
right, that says that, because a lot of people. I mean, I always equate this back, and I know it's a different topic, but even like, let's say, slavery. People watch people get hung. They would have picnics and watch it.
I know.
What made that one person say, "Oh no, I'm
Right.
not going to be co-signing on this," or someone's getting robbed? I saw a girl about to get beat up on a train, and I stopped it. And I know the people could have stabbed me or killed me, but I was like, I don't care. I'm not on my watch. Not on my watch. It's not happening.
It's the good in you because you know what I mean. But I can tell you, my years later, after we were in our neighborhood, we were outside planting flowers or something,
Mhm,
and the little girl next to us went over to visit the lady across the street,
mhm.
and her dog was like jumping and barking at this little girl and caught the handle. It was like one of those push down handles, and the
Uh-huh.
dog come running out and started mauling her.
Oh my God, no.
And we were planting flowers and we had shovels and everything. My husband picked up the shovel and just started chasing after that dog and stopped the dog. The owner came, grabbed the dog, and my husband got the girl, brought it to her porch because she was right next door, and we were stopping the bleeding
Oh,
before the mom could come out. So
poor.
this is something that he does.
Well, that's what I say. It's just his nature to say, you know what, not on my watch. You can
Yeah,
do it your watch, but not mine. And
right.
that's the stuff I'm talking about. Those are the kind of people we need in the world that are not going to sit idle and say, "Well, it's not me."
Yeah,
So maybe one day we'll have them on and do a
yeah,
special about what we call real heroes or real
right.
people. What makes people do good?
I
You know,
know. I
because
know.
imagine if he didn't do that, where would you be right now? Maybe, you know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
mm. I
So
don't even want to.
yeah, no, I thank God for him. Tell him Tanya said thank you.
I will.
And
I will. I'm going to ask him that question too. Why would I have never even asked that? I just assumed he was like, heard scream, was like, oh no, let's get,
right,
you know what I mean? I
had
never
a
even
bad
really
day,
asked.
and that guy was just ruining it, making it worse.
Who
I'd
knows
like
what he was trying to do up there, but he couldn't because of all the screaming.
right. Oh, I'd love to know. I've just one day, if you get a chance, ask him. So, did you when you got out of this relationship, what's life like now? And did you do therapy, or what did you do to, what did you do that was therapeutic to help you get through all this?
Well, I had 5 years to think about what was going on when
Mhm.
nobody was, before I actually got rescued.
Right.
And I had it all like jotted down, like little notes, like you have napkins and stuff,
Right.
and
Right.
and like so I had like this bunch of stuff,
Mhm.
and then I just saved it where you save things in a box or whatever. And then I realized he wasn't stalking me anymore, and our relationship was progressing,
Mhm.
and we ended up getting married, and I had a little girl.
Aw.
And I remember she got up in the middle of the night, and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. She was only like 2 months old, and I was looking into her eyes,
Mhm.
and she just depended on me for everything.
Mhm.
And I was looking at her going, I know it wasn't because I was stupid. I know it wasn't because I wasn't intelligent or good or what, you know what I mean? And I wanted to tell her what could happen. I was
Mhm.
like desperate to tell her. And I was
Mhm.
just sitting there sometimes at night and it's like telling her, and then if he says, don't go out with your friend, so
Right. Right.
and
Right.
she's only 2 months old. So she's thinking of it as like a
Like,
bedtime story. So
right.
that's when I wrote the manuscript. And of course, I wasn't trying to make myself look intelligent. I wasn't trying to do testimonial. I was trying to talk to her.
Right.
And I didn't want too many words because I knew
Mm.
it was, we didn't need all that. I just
Right.
wanted to get in there and get the message and get it as gently and as lovingly as possible. And I
Mm.
wanted it to be to her. And so
Right.
of course, I really am working on an audiobook that has the more inclusive pronouns for
Okay.
everybody else. But I
Right.
still want to keep my original book in its original form. And then I ended up having 2 more daughters too. But
Oh.
people were looking at my manuscript that I was going to give to her when she got
Mhm.
older,
Mhm.
And I was like, "Can you make me a copy?" So I'm like spending a lot of time
Right.
making copies for people.
Right.
And after a while, you get to the point where it's like, why don't I just, put
Make
this in a book for many people?
Yes. No, it's definitely a book that's going to help save or change your life
Yeah.
because and sometimes people can't even identify that they're in a abusive relationship at all because
No.
maybe there isn't no physical abuse yet. So
Oh
they
yeah.
so they think, oh well, I'm fine. No, I mean, I had someone tell me their husband's a lawyer, and she was like, oh no, everything's fine until the hitting started, and then that became a hope. Then she realized, oh my God, I'm in danger. I got to get out of this. They got out, but sometimes you don't know. But if you read books like this or you hear stories, which is why I do the show, um, and I won't stop talking about domestic violence because I really believe it's way more than they're telling.
Yeah.
Way more.
Yeah. And it's not always hitting. There are people out there trapped in domestic violence right now just from tantrums.
Yes.
So they don't get hit,
Yes.
but they still are being consumed. They still don't have their lives, their dreams, their hopes. They don't have anything. They're
Yes.
still being fed upon because of the same obsession.
Yes. And
But
verbal.
the person is throwing tantrums.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
there is a lot of that out there, and there people are not getting hit. But the physical abuse will really helps you see things more clearly a lot faster.
Yes. Yes. Well, and verbal abuse can be just as damaging as the
Yes,
physical. Like the physical, the black eye goes away, but someone telling you you're stupid and you're not worth nothing and nobody will believe you over
right.
me, that can stay because you remember the mind controls everything.
It
Everything.
does.
You could
It
be sick
does.
as a dog. If you tell yourself, oh, I'm not sick and I'm going to get better. If you do the other steps that you have to, it's more likely that you'd get better than if your mind says, "Oh, I'm just always sick and I'm always trying." You're always going to be sick. I know people who are
Exactly.
not really sick, but they're sick because they keep telling themselves they're sick. So that
Yes.
your mind is the most important thing to protect. And in domestic violence, that's the first thing that they mess with.
Oh, yes. And
That's
oh
the
yeah, they
first
never stop messing with your mind. And
nope.
then the person I know I was letting him do it. And
Right.
you know what's so weird
It's
is
not
that
you're letting him. I don't want you're
I
not.
didn't realize I didn't I mean I know I was falling into the trap, but the
Mhm,
one thing that actually made me cut off this relationship, and it wasn't even a beating.
mhm.
It
What was it?
was one time he came to my house
Mhm,
and it was like maybe 10:30 in the morning, and he
mhm.
noticed my shades were up and he goes, "Why are those up? My blinds?" And I said, daytime?" He thought I was trying to look out the window to find somebody to cheat on him with.
Oh my God, that's horrible. And that's the narcissism and all that. Ugh.
That's why that is the thing that broke the camel's back.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
just like, what? Anybody want you? Yeah, it's crazy. I can't understand it, but yes, I can because most of the people that do all the people that do domestic violence, they're behind that is insecure,
oh
fearful,
yeah,
what do you call it? What's the word? They're not haven't
they
I
have a
can't.
thing. They have a
Yeah,
thing that's from their childhood or whatever it
yes,
was.
and
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 I,
their
I
childhood.
actually talk about that in my book. Yes, I
Yeah,
do. And who cares? I have a thing.
right,
Everybody has a thing,
right.
but we don't go around feeding off people from it.
Exactly. But no, but I'm saying particularly, and there's no excuse at all,
No,
ever,
yeah,
ever. There's never any excuse because I'm one of those people. They tell me when I was sexually abused, oh, well, he was sexually abused too. I don't care. That's not my problem. That's not my
right,
fault. I didn't abuse anybody. So how did I know
right,
better at 6 and nobody else knew better? Doesn't make sense to me. And
right.
not,
And in your,
9 years old for me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I do.
how do you
I,
not know?
and
No.
in your life, your life is your business. So your partner is the person you have to hire to ingratiate your business, and you only have one position available.
Hmm.
So if you have one position available, you're going to want to find the best person for that job,
Right.
right? You're not going to want to find somebody who makes you doesn't care about the bottom line, doesn't make your job go forward, doesn't care about bettering your business
Right.
further and further. These people are tearing your business down.
Mm.
So that person is not the person for the job.
Nope, definitely not. Definitely not. Let's see. give me some advice for women, like one, like maybe the first thing would be change your environment. That would be my first thing. What's something that you would say?
To
So
when they were
when you're ready to leave, really
yes.
leave, because it took more than one time, right? It took
Oh
more
yes, I had to get all my stuff that I
right.
didn't want to lose, because this is what happens. They threaten your family members, they threaten your stuff, and I
Yes.
had to put all of my stuff in storage.
Mm,
So I
mm,
had all my stuff in storage. So even though I had another apartment, I really
mm,
didn't have much in there. I had a couple of chairs in there, and I lived in there a long time like that. And I
mm.
had my stuff in storage. And
Wow.
so I was just like a free agent. I was traveling light. And
Mm,
so and that is one of the things that so you don't have a lot of stuff around you that they can threaten.
okay.
So you put all your stuff in storage as much as possible. Wouldn't want the one time that you can get out,
Okay.
and then keep it in there
Mm,
until you know that this person is not stalking you, this person has let go, and do
okay.
everything. You might even have to change the voice on your phone to the
Yes.
default message, because if
Mhm.
they call up your phone and they hear your voice saying, "Hi, you've reached Debra Palardy," go ahead and leave a message or whatever it is. Of course, my name wasn't Palardy at the time.
Yeah.
They're thinking that as an invitation to go ahead and leave a message for
Mhm.
them.
Yep.
They can't even everything has to be taken away from them. They have to be shut off
Mm,
cold. They have to that is it. There has to be like one of those metal doors that shut. And
yes.
when you have kids, it's much more difficult, but the courts have set up a lot of really brilliant stuff now where you're just communicating
Mhm.
in these texts, and you have the drop-offs that are like very like
I
surgical,
You think
you
that's
know.
good? See, I personally, I don't think that's healthy. I mean, I
No.
there's no way. If I had kids, dad, if I had, thank God I didn't, thank God.
I
But
know.
if I
Me
had
too.
kids, dad, that was abusive to the point of physical violence and blacking eye me and breaking my legs, there is no way they would ever see their father again. And we'd have to
I
all
know.
come to that agreement that, you know what, if they can beat me in front of my kids, do you know the damage that has done to those kids? That
Yep,
can never be undone. That
that's
that's the
true.
part. That's the part. It's not like even if it was okay, even if it was no verbal, even if it was just verbal abuse, how about that? Okay, or financial abuse, I could say okay, but
I
physical
know.
for a kid, a 5-year old to watch their mother be dragged, for a 2-year old to 8-year old. I mean, this is going to be embedded in
Yes,
their whole
that's
brain.
true.
It's
And that
nothing
is the reason
worse
why
than
you get out. So they can't see them doing that to you. But some
yes.
people do not have the luxury of
Mhm.
taking the kids away from the father permanently. These things are not
That is
these things are
how
not
there is
granted.
how do you trust? This is why there's so many women being murdered and their kids being murdered now, because when they go to those visits is when they say, yeah, I got a visit. I know at least 3 personal families that happened to. They would have never been able to kill them had the court said, you're done, buddy. And if you
Right.
want to see your kids, it's only through video. I mean, and then if they get older and decide I still want to see my dad, that's fine. But okay, maybe through video. How about that? Maybe not so hard. But if you abuse me and you sexually abuse me, I've got stories of people that were held hostage, like crazy stories.
I
How do you
know.
let your kids see that? How do you let your kids see you interact with that man again in any form?
Oh, you're right. Everything you're saying is right. Sadly, though, there very often the courts will mandate that the kids have to see their abusive partner. So these are things that are very scary, and you have
Because
to
the courts are
tiptoe.
made by who? A man. I'm just saying. And I
You
know,
know,
and if you know history about women and abuse, and they're up until I want to say the 50s, women had no rights anyway. So if you got
yeah,
divorced from your husband, he got kids, the house, the dog, cat,
I
everything,
know,
even if he was the one doing everything.
right? I
So
know.
with that being said, that's why the laws still reflect that, because there's no way that I'm gonna let. Especially, I saw a case where someone was sexually abused by the father, and they still wanted the kid to see the kid. I said,
I know.
are you just trying to create a Jeffrey Dahmer? What are you trying to
I'm
do?"
telling you. I'm telling you. But I mean, that is you just made me think of something. That is the reason my book is written the way it's written, because when
Mhm,
you have a person who's trapped in domestic violence, you really have to make the point to
mhm,
one of them, and it has to be the victim. You have to show them with beyond a shadow of a doubt. I mean, my book could be called Clarity. I could
mhm,
have I could have named it just one word, And but I didn't want I don't I mean there's so many different titles, but it could have been called that because after you finish reading my book, everything is so clear.
Mm.
And even sometimes people will read my book and go back, but it's only for the shortest period of time because then that person is a living, breathing play. Everything that they just read, which they can't forget, by the way, because it's written so simply. They can. You hear about reading absorption. Everything is absorbed when you read my book because it's written so clear. It's absorbed like Pedialyte for words.
Right.
You know.
Oh, wow. Your book is amazing. I'm excited. You guys make sure you go to Amazon and get the book. So in advice, one of the things is not to blame yourself or shame the guilt, because it's never your fault. What are some other things that you would say about the brainwashing, the distorting? What are some things that you think can help someone?
Well, I'm wondering if I actually have a place where I have a lot of videos on all of those different topics.
Oh, what is that? Go ahead.
It's type on TikTok. It's Debra Palardy. There's no J there. It's just Debra Palardy on TikTok.
Debra.
And there's so many videos on there, and I do all different kinds. I do the jealousy, I do the envy, I do the thing. I do I have more coming. Like just
smart domestic.
So you can see a lot of the I name them.
So that's good. So we got that. Okay, let me put it here.
So you can go through them all and you'll see yourself. If you're trapped in domestic violence, you'll see yourself in
one of those situations.
Yes, in all of them.
Brilliant.
In all of them.
That is brilliant. That is the best way. And TikTok's a big medium for a lot of women and around the world, which is what I love. Yeah. Women worldwide, I mean, we got it bad here in America, but I've heard countries that have 20 times worse.
Yeah.
It just is. It's just it boggles my mind that human beings can do this. So what can a woman do to regain her self-esteem?
Well, that is for me, it was a long process because, like I said, the day that he came downstairs with the bat, I didn't know that was the day that I got rescued. I thought I was going to have to move and I was just going to continue. I was very surprised when he didn't come back. I was very surprised when I didn't see him when I was driving through town or driving down this street or that street or wherever he used to find me. I was very surprised where he just it was gone. Just gone. But so it's like I explained to somebody, it's like if you're on the bottom of the ocean, that's where I was the day that I got rescued. And so little by little, you have to go to the surface, first, to the surface. You finally see the sun and you emerge like out of the water. And then you still have to swim to shore. And then when you get to shore, you still have to walk to land and then start your life over again. So it's really just a long, long process of finding out what you want. First of all, I have like 5 things in the back to get your self-esteem back. And one of them is to nurture your opinions, figure out what's important to you because you forgot. I forgot what was important to me. I forgot my hopes, my dreams and everything. And I needed some solitude anyways. That 5 years was helpful because I found out what was important to me.
Right.
And so find out what's important to you and then go after that, and once you surface and you swim to shore and you start walk towards your life, and it takes a long time. It's a long time to get it all back. It's not a switch.
Right. Exactly. And it's a marathon, not a race. Right.
Yeah.
It takes a while, just as long as it took to get into it, it takes to get out. So some of the things I suggest is, try something new, journaling. Very important.
Yes.
So you get your feelings out because that's important to process all the stuff that's happening. So important. And I find most people put in a situation like that or any kind of abuse situation when they do their creative side, whether it's journaling, singing, writing, whatever it is, art, collage, whatever it is you do, that's such a relief. That's just as good as therapy sometimes. So I always suggest therapy, and that's just so you know which pieces go where. But you can figure it out if you look around. There's so many ways. YouTube, TikTok. There's so many pro therapists on that you can get free information. So you don't have to pay a therapist if you can't afford one. There's tons of ways, but you have to process. That's a guarantee.
I have a little spot in the back of my book for journaling.
Oh, you do? Oh, that's awesome. Yes.
Because people say they like to read my book over and over again. So I figured if you have like it's a journal back there for like some of the stuff, I just have like a little assignment but to
Right.
put in there, but who knows what people are going to write in there. Like, first of all, one of the things I say is that when you're still trapped, show this person something that you love. Don't like trigger them, like say it came from an old boyfriend or whatever. Just say that's something I bought at a yard sale or whatever, and that how much you love it, whatever it is. And I guarantee you, in 2 weeks, you will not have that thing.
Wow. Yep, that's a good. Yeah, you give some some good examples of how to see if what you're saying is right. It's really, really brilliant. I love it. What else? Some of this. So the last, I know we got time is wrapped up already. We only got actually
You know, we
very
do
soon.
this all the
So
time.
one last piece of right. I know one last piece of advice. I said meditate, yoga. What
Yeah.
else? Associate only with people who are going to uplift you. 100%.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
Not even a fraction of what are you doing that for? Not even a fraction of it. You don't have time for it.
Exactly.
I say take a trip somewhere, move if you can, or do everything different than you did before.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's reconditioning your brain. So what do you say?
Well, I mean, I would have to go back. I mean, I had to read. Oh, well, I have a good example.
Huh?
Years later, after my baby was born, my daughter was like maybe 3 years old. I was
Mhm.
at a gas station. I had put her back in the car after I got in the gas, and
Mhm.
I took her with me, into the store to pay. When I put her back in the car, and I
Mhm.
was getting ready to get into the driver's seat, and I turn around, he was right there. I
No,
I was first time I saw him after that day in the
no
hallway.
way.
He was right there. It was the only time I ever saw him after that, and I remember looking at to his face, and I remember thinking,
Oh my
and
God.
I was not scared. I
Good.
was not scared.
Mama bear.
I was blown up. Like I think I was taller,
Mhm.
and I was ready to
Mhm.
do whatever it
Mhm.
took,
That's right. For your
because this man was going to be squashed like a bug
baby.
with my bare hands if I had to.
What did you do? Did you say anything?
He just said, "Oh, congratulations," and then I said, "Thank you," and he walked away.
Wow.
He
What?
must have been getting something from me,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
was ready. I
Mama
was
bear
ready.
was in the building.
He was. I mean, I remember just backing up against the door where
Mhm.
she was sitting,
Yes.
and the back of me just hit the door just slightly, and I was thinking, there is no way.
Right. Right. Good for you. Did you tell your husband? Oh my God.
I remember telling him. I remember telling him, but I mean, I could probably ask him if he remembers me telling him right now.
Wow.
You know,
That's just crazy. I mean, I would have been freaking out. Like
I
literally.
was initially like for the very first second, like when you get stunned, but
Yeah.
then I regained my composure and it
Your
was
baby.
on.
It's your baby. That's why.
Yeah, it
Like
was the
mama
one I
bear.
wrote the book for, and
Yeah.
I really think that that encounter is what kind of like started the whole manuscript thing. But I
Yes.
remember I was actually thinking about her. I was thinking about him. That first 2 month thing came because she was like
Mhm.
3 years old there. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So I
Right.
remember talking to her when she was 2 months old about that whole thing. And I
Mhm.
remember thinking, I got to get this written down because what if something happens to me? What if I get in a car accident or something? And I
Ooh.
didn't leave her this little note
Oh,
manuscript, you know what I mean? So that's
good
why I
for
started
you.
making sure I got it on paper so that she could get it.
That is amazing. That's amazing that it took our babies, right, to make us
Yeah.
kind of that extra superhero strength come out and say, you know what? Wait a minute. If something happens to me, that's very important because you know what happens in most time relationships? They not only does the kid, they keep all the secrets, then they kind of cover it for dad, but then they don't ever talk about it again. So the poor kid processes it by attracting the same thing that they saw.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
that's the part is that your kids must have some form of therapy or some form of outlet for this thing, whether it's a group or whatever it is. Very important because kids won't tell you. They're not going to say, "Yeah, I watched mommy, get a black eye, whatever." They're not going to say that,
No.
and they'll cry. They'll just cry and hold it in with anger or with fear,
Yeah.
and those two things will create either the next monster or the person that runs totally away from, I don't want to be like dad, so I don't want anything to have to do with men. I don't want anything to do with this. I don't want anything to have to do with, opposite. Or sometimes if you're lucky, you know, someone will process in their own way. Maybe they went to school and study psychology, so they become the best psychologist. So that is another way. but
Yeah.
you have to address it with kids. Don't they think, oh, he's only 2 years old, he has no idea. I hate to tell you this, but even if you're pregnant and being in an abusive domestic violence relationship, it is embedded in that poor baby's cells.
Yeah.
That fear and that trauma. Every time you
Oh,
turn,
yes.
you move, every time you're fearful and thinking, the baby's feeling that, and that is going to play a part in their growing up. You better
Yep.
believe.
Oh,
You
yeah.
better, yeah. So thank you. One last one. Reframe your negative talk to yourself.
Yes.
Instead, I was very courageous for leaving. Instead of saying, I'm stupid, I should have left earlier. No, you're not stupid. You're a human being and you are courageous. You're fabulous. You're fantastic. And guess what? You're still standing. Very
That's
important.
right.
So we're going to leave on that note because that's the most important thing, is to get out safely.
Yes.
You know,
Safely.
because a lot of women say, well, I didn't leave. I understand why. You don't have to tell me why you didn't leave. You don't have to explain that to nobody. Sometimes you can't leave right now.
Right.
It's imperative that you have to stay, because your babies might be, something might happen to you or your babies. We don't want you dead, because then we can't help you at all.
Right.
So you strategically,
Yes.
right? Is that a good word?
I would say surgical, but I like strategic much better.
Yes. Plan. And it could take 2 years. That's fine. If you got 2 years, that's fine. Now, if you're on the last leg and this person's like putting you in the hospital every hit, you got to, there is no, that one is an ASAP. There is no plan B. Let's go right now. And I'm talking, this is what I would do if I was in a situation right now. I had no money at all. The first thing I would try to do is figure out how to get to the nearest DSS. That's the first thing I would do, because by law, I think they can't tell a woman with kids, especially no, or something like that, something crazy like that. There's a little loophole. I would get to them and say, please put me on a bus. I'm in a serious, I tell everything, a police station, maybe the police station,
fire department, anywhere.
In your police station, I would go to them. Yes, that's a good one. Thank you. Fire department. Oh, I love my fire guys.
Yeah,
and they're always so cute. But yeah, thank you, fire guys. But I would go to the police department or the fire guys. That's true. If you trust the precinct, I mean, there's been precincts that send them back home. So look at Jeffrey Dahmer's victims were sent right back to his house. So,
I know that haunts me.
Right. It haunts me too. So that if you're in that kind of police department, don't do that. And it's usually not the case, but I'm just saying to think of everything before you decide to exit, because I don't want you to go and then now you're screwed because something messed up. So you got to, like she said, she knew when it was her time to leave, and you might need to leave a few times. But when it's down to you're going to the hospital and almost dying, that means ASAP. It's today. Today's the day. And I mean, literally for me, I sleep on a park bench for me before I allow someone to drag me around and see that with my kids. That's just me. And it's easier said than done, right? Because I'm not in it. But I'm just saying, just it's better for you. I'd rather my kids see us in a shelter than for my kids to be seeing me being almost killed every day. It's mentally damaging to them, and it will affect them. So if you think of it that way, then, if you don't have a friend or you're scared your friend might be killed, fine, go to DSS and say, I need a one-way bus ticket. It's usually like $50 ticket. They usually will buy to the whatever state you want to go to. And then I'd go to that DSS office and say, I'm in a serious situation. I need help. They may say, well, we can't really help you for 30 days. Go to the shelter. You have to do the shelter. I think a shelter is better than being
absolutely
eat every day. I think for me, I mean, I would do it. I mean, everybody's different, but I would do it. As long as I can protect my kids and my kids are not going to be separated from me, I'm doing it. So think, ladies, think, gentlemen, what can I do to get out of this situation? Because here's the piece that a lot of people don't know. All my people who are stuck in this kidnapping mental state of abuse, we don't get to see you. You're not showing up for us. And you have some gift that we need that we're not even able to get to. That's what I'm saying.
Communities are being robbed.
Yes, that's why I get stabbed with suicide, because I'm like, darn it, that could have been the next scientist. Right. And now we'll never know. Like, so they could have healed cancer. We don't know. So I see it as every time you're stuck in these patterns, we don't get to see you. And you bring value to this world. That's why you're here. That's why God spared all of our lives to do something great, fantastic. And you can do it. I'm telling you, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it.
And it's not to be somebody's food.
Yes, no, definitely not.
And
You are
that's
not.
all it is. Think about it. If I'm taking everything away from my husband that
Yes,
he loves just so
yeah,
that I can feed off of him, that's
yes,
not love. That is
yes.
all you are, is somebody's meal.
Yes. Well, that's it. And that's the part. Nope, you're not here for somebody's meal. So, guys, we have to wrap up. And thank you so much, Deborah J. Palardy,
Thank you for
for
having
being with us
me.
again. You're welcome back anytime because I'm sure there's parts of the book we didn't even get to. But
Yeah.
please
Oh,
go
yeah.
out, guys. If you get a chance, go back and get the book. Sweetie, how much should you give up to keep that relationship? I can answer that.
I
By
can.
Deborah J. Palardy on Amazon. And for everybody out there, please do me a favor. Please like and share the video and subscribe.
Thank
And
you.
my new
Yeah.
subscribers, thank you. Woo, woo, we're getting there. We're getting there slowly but
Yeah.
surely. But thank you for my new subscribers. And please go get the book. And we will see you guys next time. No, we'll see you guys next week. Actually, we'll see you today at 4 p.m. for the taping for racism on racism. Okay.
Ooh,
Bye. Thank you.
bye.
Hang out with me, Deb.